Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Anne Chats. In this Anne Chat, I am chatting with Serena Caulfield. She is an Irish visual artist. She lives and works by the sea in Wexford. Her mediums are painting and drawing, and when I first saw her work, I was absolutely blown away. To me, it just leaps off the wall and into your heart. It's very powerful, magical, and there's a mystical quality to what she does. I can't describe it really. Just have a listen to this. I just wanted to know more about Serena, what motivates her, what keeps her going. So we chat about her childhood and her career and her work, and we actually did this chat by Zoom. It's the first one that I've done by Zoom, so the quality occasionally will be slightly compromised, but not too much, and I think it's really worth a listen for the fabulous Serena. There's links to her work on my website, and if you've got a comment, email me on angildis@gmail.com. I hope you enjoy this chat. Thanks for being here. Tell us, Serena Caulfield. Who is Serena Caulfield?
Well, Serena Caulfield is an artist, painter who lives in, I don't know why I'm talking about myself in third person, live by the sea in County Wexford. I paint and I'm interested in lots of things. I like to travel a lot. I live with my mum, or next door to my mum now, who is in her 80s and a very, very interesting woman who you've met.
Yeah.
So there's no escaping, really. No escaping curiosity.
And when did the painting become the number one thing?
I was 16. I had a really bad accident from a horse. And I was in hospital for like 2 years, on and off, lots of operations, missed a lot of school. And then it just kept me sane, painting and drawing all the time.
So
And
did you
then
start in hospital?
well, I always did when I was little. I was always painting. My parents ran an equestrian centre, so when I wasn't on ponies, I was drawing them. Or if I wanted to avoid any yard work or anything like that, I'd just go hide out in my pony stable and draw pictures of it.
Tell us about the accident that brought you to that situation.
Well, I had a young horse who he was mad as a box of frogs looking back on it.
Yeah.
But I was totally fearless then, so I was fine with it. But he reared up and fell on top of me. So I came off the back and he came right over back on top of me. But I was really lucky. I kind of rolled to one side. When I think about it now, it was very kind of slow motion roll to one side and left my leg behind me. So I had, major tib, fib, ankle, compound fractures. So there was a lump of bone on the grass beside me.
A lump of bone
Yeah.
on the grass. Literally a lump
Yeah.
of bone broke off.
A lump of bone. My bones came out through my hind boot.
I know
Uh,
horsey people are tough, aren't they? But
not
that must have
more.
been, it's like, oh, you've broken your arm. Get up on that horse again.
Yeah, back on the pony. Back on the pony.
Well, you did
Uh,
get back up on horses as soon as you could, didn't you?
yeah. I remember still being in my cast, and my sister was competing at a one-day event or something. And I'd walked or I'd hobbled down the hill to watch her ride. And then I realized I couldn't get back up again. So I ended up getting on her horse and riding back up the hill.
That is amazing. And
Well, fast.
did you have any fear getting back up on horses after that accident?
Later on, I think. Later on. At the time, not really. I hadn't really processed this all, you know. Um, I think the fear came later. I think you get old and you get wise. Or
Yeah. You realize you're not invincible.
yeah, yeah.
Do you
But
still ride?
yeah, if any given chance. Yeah. But I don't have any horses anymore. I'm
Yeah.
I'm wiser than that.
So you were in hospital at 16 and you were 2 years, you said, in and out. And then you thought it's going to be painting.
Yeah, well, it was kind of lucky actually. I moved schools. I kind of used the whole, trauma of the accident to bribe my parents into let me move to the riffraff school up the road.
Yeah,
So, and I'd been in like Loretto and convent, the
yeah.
thinking for that. So I ended up going to Bridgetown, and my art teacher there was really, really, really brilliant and encouraging. And just as it transpired, my when I finished my leaving cert, the new art school in Gorey opened that at the very same time.
Is
So it
that
was,
still running? Is that still an art school there?
yeah, Gorey School of Art. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
That's
So it was
so
kind of
yeah.
serendipitous, timing wise and everything. It just worked that way.
So when you went to art school, did you have a vision of what did you have aspirations about where you saw it going? Or did you just think, I'll try this?
I didn't understand what it was all about. I just knew that I loved it. And it was a way to be curious about the world and kind of look into different things and ideas and figure myself out, I guess. After the kind of tumultuous couple of years and everything, was just like, oh, okay, well, this is what I've got to lose. But
Yeah.
so no, I didn't, and I was quite young. I was 18, so
Mm.
Um, but then I ended up going from my degree into my master's straight
Where did
away.
you do the masters?
I did that in Norwich in the UK.
Oh, what art
Yeah.
school was that?
It was Norwich University College of the Arts.
And what was that like compared to Gorey?
Oh, it was totally different. I mean, I had other students in my class, which was nice.
Yeah.
I mean, other years in the art school, because when we started out, obviously it was only
It
one
was
group.
only 1 year.
Yeah.
And what interests me about your work is it's very paint orientated, and there's a real figurative element in there, although it's all the time veering towards the abstract. And you really have a sense of the paint in the work, which I absolutely love. But it seems to me, going to final year shows, that a lot of emphasis in art, and this may not be true, but it seemed that a lot of the emphasis has not been so much on painting, and it's more conceptual. And what I love about your work is it just has that traditional element. Were you going against the grain in Gorey and Norwich with the way your work evolved?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I painted the whole way through my master's, but having said that, I ended up doing a huge photographic installation for my end of year for
Yeah,
my master's project.
yeah.
But at the same time, I was always kind of taught, or not taught. I was told, don't paint animals. What are you doing that for? And I found ways of doing it. Like I did a series of paintings based on Emily Wilding Davison, who was the suffragette who jumped under the king's horse. I made a series of paintings from the film footage, from stills from the film footage. So there was a way of making it, abstracting it, and um, yeah, warping it a little bit. But at the same time, I was still able to get my horses in. But
And just
it's kind of
the
finding ways.
But it's so interesting because just looking at your work and having seen so much work going to Anna McCarrick, that figurative element and the horse element is what really pops out for me. I just in your work, and I just loved that it's got the traditional element and it's bringing it into something totally new because your style is so unique. And I found it so refreshing because it is so unique. You really found you really plow your own furrow in the art world, and you've got a lot of recognition for it.
Yeah, I think well, it's important to do you. No matter what you're doing, do it 100% yourself. And it takes a long time to get to that point where you can, do it with full confidence, I think.
Yeah,
Um, and Jesus, it's never full confidence. You always have doubts and you always want to push it a bit harder, or, you know,
yeah,
g- get to the bones of it,
yeah.
what it's about. And I'm still figuring that out, but I think at least I have a way. yeah, I have a way of figuring it out now that is hopefully more authentic and allows for kind of original thinking as well.
Like how it's a thing that's always fascinated me about painters, about how they go deeply in to what they do with the paint on the canvas.
Mm.
What is that like?
It can be really, really satisfying. It can be a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. I remember having a mentoring session
Yeah.
and I felt absolutely horrible after it because I was just like, what the fuck? How can you push me that far? But basically, what happened was I didn't really know, it was pre COVID. I didn't really know what direction I wanted to take my work in. And basically, I threw it all out on the table, literally threw it all out in my studio. And I was like, right, here you go. Here's what I consider are reasonably good paintings, but I know there's probably connecting threads somewhere, but it's not cohesive in how I've approached it. So after, half a day, he just said, why are you like this? And I was like, what?
Was he talking about your work or your
I don't-
whole?
I still don't know, but I kind of like pulled it all in, and like the feeling I got from that conversation, I just pulled it up, reined it in as much as I could. I was like, why am I like this? Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So, and there was a scatteredness to how I approached things, but then looking back, I think it was just um probably an uncertainty in myself anyway.
It always seems to me it's you need a lot of resilience to be an artist because there's two things. There's one, you have your own practice and you really have to dig deep, as the Joycean way, put the buckets deep into yourself to pull up the stuff. And then and that's very internal and it's very about you. And then you have to interface with the art world, which is bonkers. The art world is so strange. I remember going to the opening of the Venice Biennale, and it's just such another world. The, the because you have there's all different levels of it. The people who try and frame what the work is, and they not literally, but frame it in the world, and and make a market out of it and create a narrative around it. And fitting into that is a very particular uh, art in itself. You need two arts. So somebody said to me once, you you need a talent for your talent.
Yeah, yeah. Or you need someone to manage you.
How do you find that whole piece?
I'm really lucky in that I can kind of chat to anybody. And, a lot to do with my upbringing. There was always an open door in our house. There were people from every walk of life. Um, we were involved in everything, if parents had parties or whatever, there was always interesting people around and conversation. And yeah, so generally I'm pretty good at turning on the chat when I need to do it. I'm totally probably like an extroverted introvert as well. Like I get my energy from within myself or just being quiet or working or um but yeah, when it comes to art fairs and stuff, like I've gone to Freeze for the last few years and I love it.
That's London, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, there's the parties and all the fun bits, but I love just watching.
yeah.
I love watching how people are or how they behave or, how it all comes together. There's the like stupidly rich end of it. And then there's the politics, of course. There's so many weird, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like contradictions
Yeah.
in how everything operates. And I think that's something I tap into in my work as well. It's like things aren't quite what they seem, but
Yeah.
There's kind of there's so much going on. It's, sitting back and kind of absorbing. And then sometimes you can make a kind of a commentary through even just brushstrokes or palette, or
Yeah.
there's lots of different ways that it kind of manifests just from observing that whole scene. And but then there are so many different art scenes, you know,
Yeah. And
within that whole world.
do you have a vision of where your work lands in that whole world? There's like, there's so many different strata, and
Mm.
do you have a plan of, I want my work to go here, or I want to be in this position in one of those, in one of those strata?
I have a couple of galleries that I really want to show with.
Okay, yeah,
So kind of looking at how they operate, and meeting the gallerists and stuff as well. And, um, it has to be a relationship that you build
yeah,
on with people that you trust, that you can work with.
yeah,
I think that's my main thing. But obviously, on different levels, I make work for myself, but I also want it to be universal. And I also want for artists to be well looked after, but also
yes,
for work to resonate with lots of different audiences.
yeah,
Um, so I think, like, if I became super rich or super successful, whatever that
mm,
is, I would definitely help other artists to
yeah,
get to where they want to be, whatever that place is.
yeah. And where is
Mm.
your work at the moment?
In my studio and in my head.
Yeah. And, are you
I'm
working on a new series? Are you when I saw the last time I saw your work, there was the motif of horses, and there was
Mhm.
birds in there too, swans. And was there
Yeah.
some geese? There was these
Yeah.
lovely, it was like, mythological motifs in there, and there's a
Yeah.
lovely sense of, earthiness and country, and a really grounded thing. And as you can see from the painting behind you, you have a very unique kind of way of, the paint is always very much part of it, you know?
Moved on a little bit from there. I still have the horses and the swans occasionally.
Yeah,
Um, but we have, so the obviously the horsey connection's apparent, but we
yeah.
have a huge colony of swans that arrive in every year, literally to the fields next to between us and the beach.
When do the
Uh,
swans arrive?
they usually get here around November, and then they leave the end of March. Yeah, so they're Hooper swans, and they come from Greenland.
I live in the centre of Dublin, and there used to be loads of swans around Portobello, and they would arrive in around that time of the year. And you would check the season, walking along the canal, you could check the season by the arrival of the swans.
Yeah.
They don't arrive anymore. A few years ago, they stopped coming, and sometimes just a couple of swans will stay the whole year round, and
Mhm,
maybe there'd be a couple of pairs, but there used to be a whole flock of them. The place would be white with swans. I don't know what's
mhm.
happened to them. Do you notice any variation in the swan population?
A small bit, I think. Yeah, I think it's slightly less than we did
Yeah.
have. I noticed because we're getting a lot more flooding and we've terrible erosion problem here.
On the
Um,
coast?
yeah, massive, massive problem. Like, they're doing works at the moment, but basically we lost like 8 or 9 meters in a couple of days. Storm Eowyn, in a couple, literally in 2 days, there was about 8 meters gone.
Eight, you're
Um,
8 meters straight inland.
yeah, yeah,
That's 8 meters of beach
yeah.
is now
Of
sea.
well, yeah, the tide is now coming all the way in, and there was sea foam all over the road. One of the fields next to the beach was full of seawater. So basically, the swans have now started moving back a little bit, but also they're kind of, there's almost like a new lake in one of the fields behind our house.
And is it encroaching near your house?
It won't be long.
Is that a concern? Because your house is from, your mum's house is from. the 16th century, isn't it?
Yeah, originally 1630, and then the
Yeah,
house that's
17th. Yeah,
actually here now is
yeah.
1730, apart from one gable wall. Yeah. So
So it has
it
been there all those hundreds of years, and now is it a concern that the sea is coming?
it's not imminent, but it's gonna be, in the next, I'd say 30 to 40 years, it'll be very, very, very close. And that's with all the work they're doing.
What are they trying to do?
Just putting in boulders and whatever they can put along the coastline. We've a huge our neighbours have a huge potato farm there as well.
Yeah.
And there's three houses right behind the dunes and all of their farm. And they've had to put in their own defences because county council won't bother.
And the county council are going, "This is fait accompli," are they? That
Yeah.
there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
So their defenses they put in are the huge boulders.
Hmm. Yeah, with some mesh underneath just to stop the sand, but it's basically just sandy soil and marl. Like there's actually been marl clay just exposed on the beach in the last few weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, no more sand. It's bizarre, but it's
Does
it's quite.
does that does that motif creep into your work? It's so visceral.
Yeah, it's always been there. I think in a lot of ways my work is about um kind of holding on to stuff from the past as well, but it's very much in the present. So I think there's definitely correlation there, in thinking about, say, childhood memories
Yeah,
or how it used to be,
yeah.
or what it might look like in the future. There's all those things, but it definitely, I think, just from being here, um, the place is kind of in my work.
He's been out in because you live in a beautiful seaside rural area. Is that really important to you in your creative practice? Because you did live in London, didn't you?
Yeah, I was in London only for a year or so. Um,
How did you find like the urban living?
I had to come back here every 6 weeks or so just to recalibrate. But
And what
I managed to do it just by, but I was lucky to still have my studio here, so I could come back and
yeah,
work for 10 days and then go back and work
yeah,
my three jobs and paint beside my bed on a little
yeah.
bedside table.
Yeah,
Um,
because the energy in an urban environment is just so different. And I think sometimes the creative thing, it's so grounded. That's another thing I love about your work. It's very grounded in something. You just look at it and you go, I love this, and it feels real, and I can't say why. Do you know what I mean? This is the
that's
magic of
good.
visual arts.
That's good. Thank you. Yeah,
And yeah, and
a lot
another
of
thing,
it,
yeah.
sorry,
Go on. No,
go ahead.
you go on.
A lot of it is based on a childhood memory of a painting that I remember as when I was really, really tiny. But when I asked my mum about it, she was like, no, totally contradicted my memory of that picture. So there's like a recognition, I think, that it seems vaguely familiar, but then I use, say, compositions from historical paintings that you might recognize from seeing
Yes.
in a museum or in a gallery, or if you've been to National Gallery or whatever, that there's something familiar, there's elements there that kind of go, oh, I recognize this, but actually no, it's totally different than
That
than
is it exactly about your paintings. They go, "Oh, this feels like a really conventional picture, and it's totally broken down." And I love that about your work. That's something really unique to you, isn't it? That's something you found in your process.
I think so. I'm sure a lot of other people do it too, but it
Yeah.
comes it definitely comes from me and my way of looking at the world, I think.
And would you be connected to, would you have a kind of support group of other visual artists who you have a simpatico with and you discuss your work, like like Paris in the 20s, 30s, 40s?
Oh, yeah, I wish. I'd love to be in Paris. I love Paris. Actually, there's a bunch of artists, a couple of guys who've invited me to show in Paris with them in October. So that's like all Irish artists, and we're doing a kind of a self-directed show, all going well.
Where's that going to be, Serena? Or can you
It'll
say?
be well, we haven't got the venue yet, but it's just in the pipelines.
Because there's a
Uh,
great cultural centre in Paris.
mm, yeah,
That people can go and work there, and they seem very well connected.
yeah, I haven't been, but we'll get on with that.
And then how does the travel fit into your work?
I think there's different, like, so I've got a show coming up in Cyprus as my next solo exhibition, and so that'll open on the 30th of May in Art Scene Contemporary, which is in Nicosia. Um,
Wow, how did you get that connection? How did that evolve? Was that just through being on the road?
that was from being at Freeze, actually, and Maria, the director, knows a couple of friends of mine and works with a couple of friends of mine. So I was
Yeah.
introduced to her, and then yeah, we've been talking about it for a couple of years now. So we actually have the date pinned down. And when I saw her again at Freeze last year,
Mhm.
and I'd had one painting in a group show with her last year, and it was only when we were chatting I realized that the image of there was like a funny painting based on a historical image, but also with a little girl with a buckle and spade, and a dragon. And it looked like it's called Sandcastles for Dragons. But when we were chatting, I realized that it was a picture of me on the beach in Cyprus when I was 2, was the actual source image. But I hadn't made that connection before. So basically now all of my work for my Cyprus show is based on family holidays to Cyprus when I was like 2 and 3. We had two separate ones.
That is sheer serendipity, Serena, that you and it doesn't surprise me with your work because there is this I do feel that other layer, this the mythical, that a Jungian thing, a kind of collective unconscious thing that just really comes off your work because sometimes you see art and you feel there's something dead about it, like it's all there and it's in front of you and it's created, but there's no resonance. But there's something about your work that really vibrates, and it's so hard to name. That's what I love about art. It's so hard to name in words what it is, but you just go, "I- wow, there's a world here," and it's really uh, it's I want to be in this world, you know. And also a thing I love about your work is the paintings you could really live with. You know, sometimes you see art and you go, that's fascinating, whatever, or certainly with the conceptual vibe, it's like, but it's over there, it's in a gallery. But your work is also the traditional thing of the paintings that you'd love to live with. I think that's a wonderful thing about what you do. So you probably do you have collectors now? Do you have people who collect your work?
Yeah, I have quite a few people. I've sold a reasonable amount. I mean, I could always do a little bit more. I'm still, keeping the wolf from the door, as they say.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but I've signed up for that life, so I'm okay with that.
yeah.
But I have some really, really, really good, um, yeah, just advocates for me and my work, and yeah, people who champion me, which is really, really helpful
What is
and
your
very.
favorite thing about this life, about being an artist? What is your favorite thing and your least favorite thing about this world?
I think the freedom ultimately, but
Mhm.
then having said that, I'm lucky enough to live where I live.
Yeah,
It doesn't cost me a lot to live.
yeah, yeah,
Um, we've got our own veggies and hens and in the summertime, you could literally just live off the land here, and it doesn't
Wow.
cost much, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm really lucky. I'm fortunate to be able to have this life,
Yeah.
um, and I don't take it for granted ever.
And what would you say is the most challenging thing about saying, I'm really going to devote myself to this life of painting?
Um, it well, I mean, obviously the financial end of it as well.
Yeah.
um, it can be, you know, it's a feast or a famine, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a really good art community,
Yeah.
which you know, the majority of people have your back and are there for the chats if you want them, or for asking advice, or um, yeah, generally kind of a support network.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes you don't have that though, you know, there's some fuckers in the world.
I
The other
know.
end.
And you look at the whole breadth of the world and you look at people like Jeff Koons, the English chap who's did the dot paintings and the calf. Who's that? You know who I mean?
Damien Hirst.
Damien Hirst.
They,
There's a real through line of cynicism in what they do, even though it's fabulous too. But there's a real knowingness about the market and how they're playing it.
they just know how to work the system, and fair play, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah. You don't worry about that, do you? Or you don't? Or how do you? You must be aware, certainly when you go to freeze, that that's the world. But do you just kind of
Mm,
go, fair enough?
yeah, accept it for what it is. You know, I all I can do is play my tiny part in something that's much bigger than me.
And then, other than painting, what is the big thing in your life? Would you say?
Definitely
Yeah,
family.
yeah.
Yeah. Like my 3-year-old niece, I've got a new niece as well a few weeks ago, who is
Oh, I know your
5,
3-year-old niece, but I've met her. Oh, but there's a new addition.
5
Ha-
weeks old.
yeah,
Yeah. So my sister and I are really close, and yeah, and luckily they live close by as well. So I think a lot of spare time goes into being silly with a 3-year-old, which is great.
yeah. It's
It's
so
really fun.
grounding, isn't it? Kids are just
Yeah.
they connect you to what life is about.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And I think it's interesting also what you do in this era of AI, where certainly in visual AI, it just seems to be sucking from everybody's work. Have you do you ever go near AI?
I have done a little bit, not for visual stuff at all, but just with applying for applications and things. So
Mm,
say if I've written something and I need to get it down to a different word
yeah,
count,
yeah,
I'll use it for stuff like that. But
yeah.
and
Oh,
it
it
is,
is amazing for that. Yeah,
yeah. But
but
you have to be on top of it. You have to double check everything
oh,
because
you do have to double check everything, but I know there is a conversation amongst certainly amongst illustrators about the way that visual AI just sucks up everybody's work and regurgitates in different ways because it is feeding off the whole plethora of everything that's out there. I think there's such authenticity in your work and it's so real in this era, everything being so fake. That's another thing I love about your work. You see the brushstroke of a human being and you see like there's a whole through line in everything you do and you just see as somebody's psyche and being coming through the work. I find that's really satisfying and I think people will long for that more. You know, it resonates more.
yeah.
um uh,
Thank you.
yeah, that's what really jumped out for me in your work. And sometimes I think people outside the world maybe don't appreciate the commitment it takes to go on a journey with the work. Uh, and that's
Yeah,
what I
I
find
think
so, yeah,
it needs to be a never-ending journey. You know, I think there's always something more that you can push for,
yeah,
and it's not necessarily push. It's sometimes it's pull. You know, you
yeah,
pull it from everywhere.
yeah.
but trying to articulate your thoughts and feelings and ideas and politics and everything in one kind of way of articulating is really difficult. Or um, yeah, even just discovering what your language is,
Yeah.
how you tell your, tell your story through a painting in a universal language, ideally.
Yeah, that's what is so magical about painting, and and when you see people like yourself who really commit to it, the journey you go on with just paints and brushes and that surface, it's extraordinary what unfolds. What mediums do you work in?
Usually oil on canvas, and yeah, nice, lovely, expensive paints.
You're using the kind of traditional style of painting where you just build up the layers.
Yeah, generally, I yeah, can't say that it's anything but traditional. And then sometimes I work in watercolor as well, which I really, really, really love.
Yeah.
But it's a different thing. I'm kind of at the moment I'm trying to work in oils the same way as I would in watercolor, which is
Oh, that's
kind of
interesting.
yeah, just in how I apply the paint really, and very much yeah, diluted down with terps and thinner layers, and painting flat as well, which
And maybe
is
would
usually
you use the white of the canvas as the white in the painting? Like you kind of do that in watercolor, don't you?
sometimes, yeah,
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 because you don't
yeah,
you obviously don't see that really in oils. It's more built up. And
yeah.
of course in oils you can make mistakes or you can adjust, whereas in watercolor you can't.
You just
One
can't,
mistake and
yeah.
it's gone, isn't it really?
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
yeah. But I love that unexpectedness
yeah,
of how watercolor works.
yeah,
It just, it does its own thing. And I
yeah,
hopefully do my own thing too. So maybe we're a match.
yeah, yeah. Um,
That's a funny question that I don't really like being asked sometimes.
oh,
'Cause
yeah.
only because I don't know. If I was to break down the hours, it's quite difficult to do that because usually I'd have like 5 or 6 on the go at one
Well,
time.
not in terms of hours, but like, would you spend a few years? Would you, some of your paintings
No,
take like? Would you be
no.
going back fiddling with them?
Oh, yeah, totally.
And
Like,
does there
something
come a
I
point where you go fiddle no more? It's done.
yeah, usually that bit happens quite quickly. Right, so usually I spend no more than a few weeks, maybe, have something on the go for a couple of months, but not pay too much attention to it. So when I put the last mark down somehow, it's like, right, that's it, put it away.
Yeah,
But I could think I've made a masterpiece and then pull it out a few months later and go, what the fuck was I thinking? This is awful. And go at it again. Or the other way around, where I put something away because I think it's crap and pull it
yeah.
out and like, oh, actually, that's all right. That's okay. That'll do.
Francis Bacon apparently used to, he would see some of his work in art galleries apparently and buy them and destroy them in the street and go, no, no, it's not there. And it's such a mad thing. I think, Serena, that's one of the reasons I like comedy is that there's a kind of honesty in it either works or it doesn't because people laugh. But of course, within what people laugh at, there's the universe is there and what might make people laugh, and is that an easy laugh, and is that trite, and can you go deeper, and what are you really saying, and do you want people to laugh actually at certain points, but at least
Mm,
there's that direct thing that you do the work and then it's audience, and whereas with art uh it's like literature, I suppose. It's a much
yeah.
more ephemeral thing, but
Yeah.
you look at it and you go, yeah, that's done. That's it.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting that you have that relationship to work you did years ago that you go back like Do you stay in love with your work, or do you go, "That was part of a process"?
A bit of both. So it depends on the painting. You know, I've got or my mum has some some of my really old work in the house, and there's a couple of paintings that she absolutely loves. So I couldn't even touch them ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I look at it and go, well, yeah, that was part of that process of that time. But actually, it can't be that bad because it led me to
That's it.
doing whatever the next thing
Yeah.
was.
As one
Uh,
artist said to me once, the only a way round is through, and you just have to go. It is a long journey, and it's like you were saying, you have to stick with it to get where you're going, and you don't even know where you're going. Really, that's the
no,
magic
no.
of it.
Absolutely. Well, after I'd had that mentoring session with where the guy asked me, "Why are you like this?" I attacked a lot of my old paintings. So I had a bonfire, which was quite fun. And then I had, I made a whole series of work that I called deconstructed paintings. So basically, I sanded off all the paint and I carved into them and I like, basically tried to break them down to figure out what worked about them, what didn't, but without the preciousness of it being a finished work at the end. So I still have some of those. I wouldn't show them necessarily.
But when you talk about the bonfire, did you literally burn works?
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
The first works that you've been doing, and or why did you burn them?
They were just not good
Yeah.
at all.
The
And
yeah.
they didn't mean anything. They didn't honor me as an artist or a person. And I don't think anyone else was gonna appreciate them either. Like
Yeah,
they just
and
were
how many years' work was that? Was that work when you were at college or coming out of college or
no, I still have a lot of my college work actually.
yeah.
Uh, Probably that in-betweeny time where I wasn't really, I ran a gallery for 4 years. So
Oh,
that
yeah,
a bad one, but, I gave it a go. Um, so during that time, I wasn't invested in my everyday practice. I was kind of,
yeah.
you know,
What do you mean a bad gallery?
it
When you
well, it could have been great if it was in London or somewhere,
yeah,
but basically the rent had to be paid, and I ended up selling all sorts of shite work. And, like, not mine, but
yeah,
just stuff for, 50 quid,
yeah,
and it was never, ever, ever gonna pay for itself, but,
yeah,
um yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I learned an awful lot from doing it. And
yeah,
it was called the Sweet Shop Gallery. So it had contemporary art and retro sweets.
yeah.
So I had the old fashioned weighing scales with the old fashioned sweet shop and then art on the walls as well. Um, yeah, so the idea was a good one. It was
Yeah.
just the wrong place in
Where was it?
in Rosslare.
Alright. Yeah.
Rosslare
So,
City.
Rosslare is a holiday town, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it had that kinda holiday
Yeah.
souvenir
Yeah.
feel, yeah.
Yeah. But
Well,
I mean, the initial plan
pardon?
was the summer.
Yeah,
I said the initial plan was the summer and it worked for 4 years and gave me the money to be there all winter and work away on my own stuff
brilliant.
and then seasonal summer thing. So served a
Mm.
purpose, but I
Yeah.
made a lot of shit work.
Was it because you just felt you're running the business and then you need that space to for your practice that is actually something quite different? Was that
Yeah,
it?
totally different. Totally different. Can't do everything.
No, you can't do everything. What do you think? You have Grayson Perry would say, he'd be very egalitarian about people's taste in things. So it's all, like he would celebrate any type of visual expression. Like, would you, would you be, would you be of the same mindset?
And within reason.
Yeah, that bad painting makes you. lose the will to live.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
find a bad painting, I just go, it's kind of makes you feel like you're choking.
A little bit.
Yeah, and another thing I always think about painting is I think that to paint well, even in an abstract way, you have to draw very well. I think the basic of thing of everything is that drawing, and I don't know, those skills don't seem to matter anymore in art school or whatever. I mean, it's not to say that it's like classical times where you spend, most of your time just drawing from life models or classical statues or whatever. But would drawing be a big part of what you do?
I think I draw directly,
Yeah,
with on canvas. I
yeah,
don't really sketch that much or anything. The odd time,
yeah,
if I was on holidays like that, I would, because yeah, need to have an output somewhere.
yeah,
But no, I don't really draw as much as I'd like
yeah,
to.
yeah,
Um, it's definitely more thinking directly onto the canvas, or
yeah.
observing directly onto the canvas, and then figure it out from there.
Thank you so much for chatting to me about your work, and I really enjoyed the conversation because it's it's so ephemeral and so hard to talk about. Visual art practice, I always think so. I find it utterly fascinating talking to you about what you do. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you very much. You're asking all the right questions.
If you'd like to get in touch, you can email me on angledchats@gmail.com. Anne Chats is a Farron Gildee production produced by Paul Farron and Anne Gildee.